Welcome to the University of South Florida, St. Petersburg. By a show of hands, how many of you is the first time that you have been on this campus? Oh my goodness. Sue Sider, did you see that? Did you see that, Sue? Fantastic. Well, welcome to what we call the Jewel by the Bay. USF St. Petersburg is one of 3 universities within the University of South Florida system. University of South Florida, Tampa, University of South Florida, Sarasota, Manatee, and the University of South Florida, St. Petersburg. We like to think, well, we know we are the most beautiful, bold, and most ambitious of the 3 institutions. So again, thank you for coming. I would really like to thank Encore for selecting USF St. Petersburg for this venue. I send greetings also from our Chancellor, Sofia Wisniewska, who unfortunately could not be here today. I know this was something she was very much looking forward to, but she asked if I could come and give greetings. One of the things that I hope you do is that you will take time and to go to each one of the vendors that are here, but I would like to give a shout out particular one of the vendors that's close to my heart, and that is for the University of South Florida St. Petersburg's Senior Auditing Program. And we're back here in the back left. 3 chairs of the senior auditors. You may not know this, but if you are a tax-paying citizen and you are a senior of 60 years and over, you may sit in classes for free at the University of South Florida. For free. Now, don't get too excited. For example, I teach statistics. That's usually the response that I get. But if I said, I teach graphic design, I teach art, I teach writing and poetry and creative writing and international relations, political science, history of Florida, foods around the world, now you're getting excited. And you think, those are some really cool courses I might be interested in. So the university has 3 colleges, College of Arts and Sciences, College of Education, and the Kate Tiedemann College of Business. And you are allowed to take courses across these. Most of the individuals who do come to take senior auditing courses, they take them within the College of Arts and Sciences, and most of them are the courses that I mentioned as well. And at any one time, we have about 150 senior auditors on this campus. So if you are interested in learning about the program, please sign up in the back here. We will contact you, and we'll let you know more about the program. And in addition, if you're interested to find out about the different activities that we host on a regular basis here at the University of South Florida St. Pete, sign up on our mailing list, and we will send you our bi-monthly newsletter of different activities you can get involved in. So the courses that you would take would be 15, 16 weeks long, and a lot of people say, I can't give 15 or 16 weeks to a particular class. Which brings me to my second point that I'm very excited to present today, and this is unfolding actually as we speak, is that USF St. Pete is about to launch a lifelong learning program. And so we become very good partners with Encore Connect Tampa Bay. And we're in the process right now of hiring a director of the lifelong learning program. So much more to come on that. So that's about all I have. I would like to, at this point, bring to the podium Bevan Gray, the founder of Encore Connect. Have a great day on our campus. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean, and thank you, USF, for sponsoring and letting us have. Isn't this a beautiful space? We are thrilled to have you here today. As Dean said, I'm Bevan Gray-Rogel of Encore Tampa Bay. We are an initiative under the Community Foundation of Tampa Bay. Our mission is to strengthen the lives, organizations, and community of Tampa Bay by building a network of resources, organizations, and experts to help you discover, retool, and connect to your Encore. For the last 3 years, 2.5 years, when I started with the penciled-in drawing, is that we have done a couple things. One is that we have elevated this Encore idea by creating events like this to just let people know about the opportunities that are here. Second, we've been creating programs and pathways to help people figure that out. We've been running an Encore Academy at the Greenhouse, and we now are doing this in Ybor City at the Entrepreneurial Collaborative Center. The other thing we've been doing for the last 2.5 years is building partnerships, collaborating with other organizations. All those organizations that are back that you'll get to meet face-to-face today have been partners with Encore Tampa Bay because they're committed, just like I am, to help you all find and discover and connect to your Encore career. So this is really what Encore Tampa Bay is about. We believe that this is the right time and the right place for us to have this event. There is a seismic shift going on in our country today. Actually, it's international. I went to a national Encore conference, and they were from other countries. The shift that's going on is our second largest generation, boomers and beyond, are redefining what work and retirement really is all about. We also know that we want to do this second half with something that's important to us and has meaning for us. We also know that there's this tremendous wealth of talent and experience that are ready to stay engaged in some way to either make money or to give back in the community that's there. So it's whether staying engaged with your current job. Carrie Hannon will talk about how you could love the job you have or retool and find the dream job that you want. Maybe it's that you want to start your own business or a franchise. Or maybe you want to just blow all that up and go do something else and learn a whole new career and a whole new set of skills. Or maybe it's really wanting to help our community and connect with the nonprofits who desperately need your talent and experience. So at the same time of this exciting shift in opportunity, there's external factors that are impacting how we're doing this. And the number one factor is we know from AARP great research, 80% of people over 50 years old are saying they want to do some kind of work up until their 60s and their 70s years old. But a lot of those people can't work. They've been laid off. Their health situations, they're in caregiving demands that are there. And so what we also know is that people who are long-term unemployed, the greatest age group for long-term unemployed are age 55 to 65. We also know, in a recent article by Washington Post, shows that the average amount of money that boomers have saved for retirement is $25,000 or less. So what does this mean for us? It means that we still want to have meaning and purpose, but there's this other factor here that's probably going on for a lot of us, is that earning income still is part of the equation of what's there. So here we are faced with opportunities and with challenges. So what is the pathway? What are the resources that we need? What are the new ideas and thinking for what we can do to earn income, find meaning, and do what counts for us in the second half of life? Tonight you will learn from our keynote speaker about ways to stay in the game, to do what matters to you with the skills, attitude, and overall game plan to make it happen. Our Roadmap Expo, we're very excited about, will provide you with face-to-face connections with people, with experts, with organizations that are ready to meet you where you are on the path of finding whatever your Encore is. So our number one goal, people have asked me all along, what is the objective for this event? The objective is for you, each of you, to walk away from today with one idea, one action, one connection to a person, or even to each other. I mean, one of the things that we know at the Encore Academy is it's the connection that we have all of you that are really feeling the same way and you're in the same place. So I challenge you today to, I'm not saying you have to solve all the problems of the world and have your career already set up, but have one little connection idea or kernel of an idea that you're going to do something different. You're not going to just sit and tell your best girlfriend, I hate my job and I don't know what to do. I want you to really say, I'm ready for action. I'm ready to do something. None of this event could have happened without our great sponsors. Our presenting sponsor, Raymond James, our venue sponsor, USF St. Pete, our launch sponsors, SunTrust Bank, Florida Blue, Bright House, Manpower, Greenhouse, and St. Petersburg Chamber. Our retool sponsors are Baby Boomer Barristers and My Video Voice. Our print sponsor was Nielsen Media, and our boomer sponsors are the Workforce Institute, St. Petersburg College, Walkabout Collaborative, Hillsborough Community College, and Social Venture Partners. What is most exciting about each of these organizations is that they're in this for the long run. They're not just here sponsoring an event. Each one of them have said to me that their mission is to, they see and they've connected the dots. They see that what they're doing can help you in the path that you have. I want to share with you, we went to the National Encore Conference a couple weeks ago, and I was inspired by two women in that conference. One was Carrie Hannon, who's speaking to us tonight, and the other is Joanne Jenkins, who's the CEO of AARP. And both of these women said something that really struck home to me, and that is that in order for us to stay in the game, in order for us to be engaged and to deal with these external factors as well as these dreams that are here, both of them talked about three areas, and that is health, wealth, and self. We have to understand and figure out how we're going to have enough money to be happy and live our lives, how to stay healthy and live to be 80 or 90, because that's how long we're going to live. And the self is really about learning, discovery, and doing something that matters to you. So I'm really excited about our sponsors because they really do really mean it, that they want to help a lot. So I encourage you to go talk to them later on tonight. I do want to also do a big shout out to our Encore Connect committee. If you are part of the Encore Connect committee, yes, you have to stand up right now. Encore Connect, and Betty, that means you, and Tracy, that means you. The Encore Connect committee, this was, I don't know why I created this complicated event, but it was complicated, and we could not have done it without all of you. I am now, unfortunately, I was going to introduce to you Marlene Spalton, and she's stuck in a high I-4 traffic jam right now, but I do want to say, and I'm going to bring Wilma Norton, who's the Vice President of Marketing up, but I just want to say that if it wasn't for Marlene Spalton believing in Encore Tampa Bay, I wouldn't be here today. She really believes in what I'm doing. So I'm going to welcome and thank Wilma because she was a great part of our committee.
Thank you, Bevan. Following Bevan at a podium is always a daunting task because she's a cheerleader. She believes so strongly in this and is such a cheerleader for it that you just want to jump up and say, whatever Bevan wants, after you hear her speak, I'm in. I do bring you greetings from the Community Foundation of Tampa Bay. Since 1990, the Community Foundation has been all about making connections in our community, and that's why having Encore as one of our initiatives makes so much sense. We're about connecting donors to nonprofits and to charitable endeavors that are meaningful for them. We're about helping nonprofits grow their capacity to do the work that they do in the community. And we're all about connecting resources. Sometimes that means connecting nonprofits to each other, connecting donors to nonprofits, and just building a stronger, better community. And certainly by tapping into the amazing resources of the folks who, like me, are baby boomers and not ready to say, you know what, 55 isn't the time to hang it up. It's the time to explore and see what I can do to be a better me and to make a better community. That's what is so core to our mission and why it's so important to us to have Encore Tampa Bay as part of our stable of initiatives. We want to thank the folks who have helped make this possible, and so I'm going to introduce to you Karen Julian, who is from Raymond James. She joined Raymond James in 2006 and in 2009 became head of the branch, the network of women advisors. She's now Vice President of Investments and is the branch manager of the Carillon Center. The most important thing you need to know about Karen applies to this gathering. She has a personal motto that I think we all can apply to our lives and certainly applies to Encore, which is if you're not growing, you're dying. And we all want to keep growing as long as we can. So with that, Karen Julian.
afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today. In pure boomer fashion, here I go. Right. They're crazy. Well, we're very, very proud to be here and to be the presenting sponsor with Encore Tampa Bay. As Wilma mentioned, you can't say no to Bevan. She has been so passionate about this initiative. About 2+ years ago, sat down for coffee with her and Marlene and explained exactly what they're trying to do. And look at you now. I mean, and this is the second event here. So congratulations. Since 1962, Raymond James has called the St. Petersburg, Tampa Bay area home, with our international headquarters located right in Carillon. For more than 50 years, we've used our business and our hometown advantage to build a firm that's considered today the premier alternative to Wall Street. We're proud to be the presenting sponsor and support Encore Tampa Bay in this very important conversation about what's next after retirement. But that conversation should really start before retirement. I heard someone just earlier say, I'm 7 years from retirement, but that's why I'm here, to figure out what that looks like. And while it's very important to understand how you'll spend your retirement, it's equally important to understand if you can financially afford to retire and if you're ready financially for your Encore career. And that's where Raymond James comes in. Having a retirement plan is good, and having the right plan is better. One that is customized based on your particular situation, your circumstances, your goals, and your dreams. And what better way to determine if you have the right plan by working with a financial advisor? We have many financial advisors here today. We've got some here at this booth up front, some in the back, some will be in the crowd as well. But those financial advisors can begin to help in that area to help you prepare for what's next. Also here today is Paul from our HR department, looking to connect to those of you who may be considering a role in financial services as your what's next. Raymond James, we want to be your financial partner and help you work towards your Encore career and a life well planned. Thank you for being here today. We appreciate it. Now I'd like to introduce Jeff Johnson, AARP Florida State Director. Jeff and his team of staff, volunteers, and members seek to lead Florida to expand the possibilities and tackle the challenges of an aging society and equip Florida families to live their best lives as they age. I'll tell you what, the first time I got that AARP in the mail, I was like, it's here. He's a respected leader across the state who speaks regularly to groups and to the media about issues such as health, long-term care, Social Security, financial security, fighting fraud, building stronger communities, using social media effectively. I could use a few lessons there, and leadership development as well. He also facilitates small group checkup sessions as part of AARP's Life Reimagined, which I'm sure you're very familiar with. Jeff has worked with AARP Florida since 2000 and was named State Director in February of 2012. He was raised in Jacksonville, graduated Phi Beta Kappa from Wake Forest University, a graduate of Leadership Florida Class 32, and lives in St. Pete with his wife and his daughter. Please welcome Jeff.
Thanks very much, Karen. I can't believe there's another Wake Forest grad out here somewhere. A couple, fantastic. So quick show of hands, knowing that this is being recorded for later use. Is there anybody here who has not gotten an invitation to join AARP? Because we've got folks in the back, if that's the case. No hands, okay. First of all, I'm delighted to be a part of this. It's been wonderful to be a partner with Bevan and with Marlene. The Community Foundation of Tampa Bay has done a wonderful thing by sponsoring Bevan and really launching Encore Tampa Bay into the force that it already is and will continue to become. We're happy to be along for the ride. As Karen mentioned, Life Reimagined is an initiative that AARP has had for the last couple of years to try to help folks who are trying to answer questions. And the main questions that I find people wanting to answer are pretty small words that are tough to get to. One is why, and one is how. And I think that Life Reimagined is particularly equipped to try to help you sort out the why. The why are you where you are, and how do you get to where you want to be? And I think that Encore Connect, Encore Tampa Bay, and the Encore Academy that Bevan has launched has been fantastic in helping people begin to think out the how. So as we go through the day, as you go through this afternoon and evening with us, as Bevan challenged you to do one thing to take a step forward, that may be answering one of those questions or just making sure you have them properly asked. And I would say that from AARP's perspective, those why and how questions were questions that our founder had, Dr. Ethel Percy Handress, way back in the 1940s and 50s. And when she founded AARP as the American Association of Retired Persons, the why question she was asking is, why is it that our society takes experience and energy, crumples it up in a ball, and throws it in a corner? How do we find a way to engage people of all ages in ways that help them live successfully and live with independence, dignity, and purpose? And how do we do it in a way that is one that helps society as a whole? And so as we fast forward to today in the state office here in St. Petersburg, which incidentally has been a home for AARP since almost the association's founding, we ask that question too. How do we help people connect the resources that we have available to us to their lives in a way that helps them grow, helps them continue to pursue their dreams? And we spend a lot of time talking to leaders in the community about why it's important to embrace people of all ages, why it's important to recognize that experience matters, why it's important to understand that while it is fantastic that St. Petersburg and much of the state of Florida is becoming a hot attraction for millennials, which is a fantastic thing, we ought recognize that to do that best is to do that in a way that also welcomes and accepts boomers and the experience that they bring to the table. And so today I'm really excited to be able to introduce our speakers, and I have promised them and promised several of you in the audience that I will not read their bios because they are here and because my glasses are not as good as Karen's. But I will say that Carrie has spent much of her career answering those questions of why and how. And whenever AARP in Florida is looking for something that we can spread on Twitter or Facebook about the latest, greatest on how boomers are reshaping the workforce, how boomers are reimagining their careers, and how you and I can figure out how to make that next step, it's often, really usually, Carrie Hannon's work that we're citing, and you'll hear from her today. And then I will also say, too, that answering questions is life's challenge. Asking them is the fun part. And so I'm really excited that the format today allows Luann Soraga-Walters to get to ask those questions. Luann is an accomplished journalist who now hosts the Philanthropy Show and has been a great asset to Encore Tampa Bay and to really this community. And so without further ado, let me introduce Carrie Hannon and Luann Soraga-Walters.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Really appreciate it. Are we on? I think we are.
Hi, everyone.
Yay. Well, what a joy. I want to say a big thank you to Bevan first for inviting us to this incredible event. And I have to echo what everybody's saying about you, because you have this passion. We had Bevan on our show several months ago. It's a rerun this week. I wanted to make sure that they could see it. But the passion that she talks about exactly what Jeff just said. Here we have 70+ million boomers in this country who are coming to that time to be able to say, what am I going to do next? Mm-hmm. Carrie Hannon has some incredible, how many of you are familiar with her work, her books, her magazines, her columns? She's, yes.
Well, you will be now.
This is just an incredible opportunity to be able to talk with you. And Carrie, you and I were talking a little bit before this event started, and one of the things that we both know and that we've heard from the speakers who just got up is the change in climate that we're seeing right now. What does that look like? We've got people living longer. We've got plans for finances that, what did they say, 25,000 is the average for many? Wow. So talk a little bit about that first. Where are we right now?
Yeah, thank you so much. I
Absolutely.
appreciate you being here, and Bevan, thank you. This is a really interesting time we're in, and what's different about retirement today is that it's shifted in the sense that we're living longer, healthier lives, presumably healthier, but definitely longer, and it makes how we approach our retirement different. Traditionally, people thought about, if we just look at the financial piece of it, you thought about your retirement savings, your pension, your outside, savings outside of your pension or your employer plan, and Social Security. But today there's a fourth pillar, and that's work. And work is not a four-letter word. It is really something that people need to plan for and make it part of embrace in this section of life. And I think it's not only a financial piece that's important to this, but when you're working and you're engaged in the community and what you're doing, it has other benefits. You're mentally sharper and you're physically. I mean, studies show that if it's use it or lose it. If you're out there mentally engaged and socially engaged, it just provides a much richer life for all of us. And so I really encourage people to start, and my whole mantra is very much making work, embracing this idea of giving back in this next stage of your life in a different way than retirement. It's not just golfing and sitting on the beach or what have you.
Well, you've written about a lot of those categories that you just talked about. People who are maybe not so happy with their current jobs, or they're coming up to that retirement and wondering, what do I do next? Should
Yeah.
I get another job? Should I get an Encore job? Do I volunteer at a nonprofit? I'd kind of be interested to see what's going on with our
Well,
audience.
exactly. How many here are already in a second career, in an Encore career? I know you. And how many are you are a couple of years out? You're just thinking about what it is you might want to do next. Good. So we're going to address all those areas because I think this is a really critical thing. The earlier you can start thinking about making this transition, the more successful you're going to be.
You all are receiving that copy of getting the job that you want after 50, correct? But you've also written a book that I got on Amazon called Love Your Job. Now, I'm an entrepreneur, and I do love my job, but there have been many times that I haven't. And I think this is fantastic. What prompted you to write this for those in the room who are now in that position of, I know I need to continue working.
Right.
Maybe I don't want to learn a new skill set. What do I do?
Yeah, the point is this is all about, take this job and love it, not shove it. And the point is I would go around the country speaking to audiences of mostly folks over 50 who were looking for work. And a lot of it was AARP introduced me to this group. And it was these are people that really, as Bevan mentioned, the retirement savings, this is a group that I could look out and I see this palpable fear in their eyes that they were going to outlive their money. And it's possible. So the point is I would come home and I brought this message of hope, like you can do it, ageism is alive and well in the workplace, but this is what you need to do. And I would come back to Washington, D.C., and I'd be talking to my friends, and they would be moaning about their jobs and this and that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You have a job, You should be grateful that you have work, and if you don't like it, move on and let somebody else have that position. And so I wrote this book to say, all right, let's empower you. It's up to you. No one's going to make you happy in your work but you. So this is what this book is about, giving people the tools to kind of reimagine their own work where they are today, because there's also, what's next and how to move into an Encore career. But I think some of us need to fall in love with where we are right now.
Ooh, that's a good point. I think well, I'm not going to say that out loud because you probably don't want to actually raise your hand on this, but how many of us have been burned out in the
Yeah.
job? And what are the causes of that?
I think many reasons why you might be. I mean, but the number one reason, first of all, if you ask people what they love about their work, it's usually not the job itself. They love the people they work with. They love the mission of the company, whether it's for-profit or not-for-profit. It means something to them. They're proud of it. And they like the opportunity to learn or to travel, what have you. And when you really drill down and you say, well, what is it you don't like about your job? It's generally that they're bored. They don't see it as boredom, but that's what it is.
So how do you become unbored?
So there are a couple of tricks. And the most important thing, and I think we heard this from some of the introductions, is this idea of learning. So the number one thing you can do to shift it up is to learn something new. So whether it's if your employer is going to provide some education on the workplace, or whether you take a course at a community college or another opportunity to learn, once you start learning something shifts in your brain. You get energized and you start to see the world in a different way. So I think education is a really key, easy first step. But there are other ways you can do it. Raise your hand, ask for new duties. We're often really afraid to stretch and to try something new because we might fail. So I think if you can really push yourself to ask for a new assignment, to get in line for something new, you really move into that opportunity to fall back in love with your work again. And an easy way, and one simple technique is to, if your office is a disaster, which a lot of ours are, if you start to declutter. When you're decluttering something, you're making decisions about your life. You're saying, I value this, I don't value that. It's a real easy technique to get you thinking about what's important to you.
You just don't want to do too much because everybody might think you're leaving, right? It's like I'm packing up and I'm...
But it's critical, but there are ways also to find joy around the edges of your job, and it's often through volunteering at work, because you're networking, you're doing stuff. And I'll tell you, a lot of the people that are doing those volunteer projects are higher ups at your company who are doing it that may help you move into some new assignments as well. But it's also building this camaraderie or finding something outside of the workplace that you do with your colleagues, whether it's an a cappella group at NIH. They have this in Washington. They're a wonderful a cappella group that they go around to nursing homes and assisted living and do performances. But it's coworkers doing something outside the workplace together.
It's not just the task of the job that you're doing.
Nope, it's
creating a
everything
culture
around it.
within, with the people that you're working
Yep.
with. So what if you've tried that, and maybe some folks are nodding and saying yes, but when do you know it's time to move to something else?
Yeah, I think, and the one other piece about finding love at your job again too is often this idea of flexible work and having the ability, as we get older, we want autonomy. We're grown-ups. We don't want to have to be in the office all the time. So if you can have the opportunity to telework, you'll find a much more engaged employee, and you'll be more engaged yourself if you have that little bit of freedom. But not everyone, maybe it is time to move along. But again, nothing rash. I mean, you need to take, any time that I've focused, and I wrote a book a few years ago called What's Next, and it was about people who did one thing and switched to doing something completely different. And I profiled people who were successful at this transition. And the key to it was taking their time. It takes, a couple of years to really make a good transition. So, it's really important to kind of try to be happy where you are right now while you start to plan forward to what you're going to.
Well, that's a scary thought too, especially if you're not really sure where you want to go. Getting the job you want after 50 is also trying to pinpoint, what do I want?
What do you want to do?
How can you start to think about that?
And, something that really terrifies people is that people always used to throw around this word passion, do what you're passionate about. Well, some people are terrified that they don't have any passions. They're like, what is it? So what you really need to do is pause and do nothing rash, as I said before, and do some soul searching. What is it you might want to do? And you don't need to go back and get a master's degree necessarily, but take a course. Something interests you. Okay, I'll take a course in this, and I'll see if that's really the path I want to go on. And you just take baby steps. You start networking by reaching out and talking to people who do things that interest you, and find out what it's all about. Have a coffee date and so forth. So it's reaching out, and I love, often people will have this idea that they have something really dreamy that they've always wanted to do, and that's what they're going to go to. But you really need to do the job first. And so if you can moonlight on the side or do a little volunteering in an area that interests you, then you get a sampling of whether it's something you truly want to do. And a friend of mine was taking, she actually took an early retirement package. She was a corporate attorney in Washington and had been a lobbyist as well. And Bev absolutely is the most amazing gardener. And so she said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to become a landscape designer.
Wow.
And so that was going to be her encore, was she was going to become a landscape designer. And she got out in the garden, and she was miserable. She was so miserable because it was lonely, and she's a people person. And she realized that the gardening was her respite. That was her place to get away to. But when it became her job, it was just completely not what she wanted. So she was able to shift. But I mean, it's a perfect thing is don't ruin your hobby, or don't ruin, by taking that opportunity to build it out in small stages.
That makes a lot of sense, though. At least test the waters, see if it's something you'd like. And in the meantime, something that I really love about Carrie's writing is how she really threads through all of her writing. It's not just factual, scientific, this is what you need to do, step 1, step 2, but it's about interpersonal work as well. And at the very beginning of this book, you write about your dog, Xena, and how if you could how many of you have dogs? Or cats even sometimes have this behavior. But every day is a great day, right? Every day, everything, unless they get in trouble. And then, but they're happy again as soon as you pet them and say, yay, you're a good dog again. And so I created a little thing called Live Like Reno, because we have a new little Yorkie. And I love that energy.
Yep.
How can you apply that in your, you talk about a method that you think you call hover. Hover?
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and Hover, it's just an acronym I came up with, and actually on Life Reimagined, if you go to their site, I have a little workshop on thinking about Hover, but what it stands for is hope, optimism, value, enthusiasm, and resilience. And those are sort of these ingredients that sort of help us navigate what we're going to go forward to, and it gives you, you know, this opportunity to think about what is it that I value about myself? What kind of work do I want to go to? And you have to bring a certain enthusiasm. You have to be resilient. And I think most of us have these tools already. It's just focusing on how do we bring these into our next act together.
Say that again, because I saw several people writing them down.
So
I'm trying to get
it's hover. So H is hope. O is optimism. V is value. We want to value ourselves. E is enthusiasm. And R is resilience. And there are really all these ingredients that really make us who we are in our next chapter.
That's wonderful. Well, for those folks who are here because they're planning for 7 years from now, when they know that retirement is coming up, you've been quoted in, well, national media several times as saying that you want to retire, the word retire. So explain that. What do you mean?
Well, I just think retirement is such an old concept, and many of you right here in this room feel the same way. You know, it's more like it should be refirement. I mean, it's kind of an opportunity to really get excited about what we're going to do next. It's not retiring and stepping back, it's stepping forward. And other people I've talked to in this area, and I think Bevan probably said this too, is you retire, when you leave maybe your primary employer, you're retiring to something, you're not retiring from something. And it's really important to focus on the future and the possibilities of it. And one thing I believe a lot of people get caught up in is this whole word of, well, I have this. You know, if you're 50 or 55, you have at least, and even if you're 60, you've got a good 15 years ahead of you that you can really make an impact on this world and in your own world. And people often think they need to reinvent themselves in some way. I have to become somebody new. And, you know, and that's simply not the case. I mean, I see it as, you know, you're really redeploying the skills that you already have. Yes, you need to keep that lifelong learning. You may have to add new skills to move into the area you want to. But there's this wonderful guy I met when I was doing my book, What's Next? And he retired from the Navy. And Don Covington, he had mandatory retirement. And Don, ever since he was a little kid, Don absolutely loved the circus. And he would go wherever he was deployed with the Navy to the circus, wherever he went. He always went to the circus. But when he left the Navy, he could have, you know, flown a commercial aircraft. He could have gone to work for a defense contractor. He was really this. But you know what? Don ran away with the circus. and his wife, who was a nurse, she became a wardrobe manager for the circus. He went to work for the Big Apple Circus, which is a small circus that runs up and down the East Coast. And it's a nonprofit, and they do great things for kids in hospitals and so forth. But he became the company manager with a troupe of 150 going up and down. And I said, oh, come on, Don, you know, this is quite the jump for you. You know, and he goes, Carrie, tell you the truth. The military and the circus aren't that different. He said, and I understood what he meant, is he took all those leadership skills that he had learned from his primary career, and he redeployed them into managing this troupe of people. I mean, it was all about project management and leadership skills. And, you know, oh my gosh, I mean, you were talking about one happy man, and it was a great transition.
That's beautiful. Well, I think part of the fear factor around that, too, is, I mean, I qualify for a couple of your books because I'm in my 40s, and technology has gotten away from me. I have gotten to that point where a 20-something freelance videographer that I work with, it's not Lex, although she's wonderful, actually was showing me something, and I realized I had no idea what he was talking about. And I thought, now wait a minute. I grew up with an Apple IIe. It was the first computer out. I had it. How did I get lost in the shuffle? So I know it's got to be pretty intimidating when you're getting close to that time and you're saying, okay, well, how do I redeploy my skills in this new scientific technology, different kind of culture?
Well, I mean, technology, you cannot ignore it. I mean, that is an essential piece of almost all of our jobs, and some respect. So I encourage people to, reach out and, take courses at the community college, take workshops, do whatever it is. If there's a certain field or job you're thinking about, you might want to move to, look about what do you need for that job? Look at the job descriptions, talk to people in those jobs. What are the skills you need, and go and get them. And you might just have to actually call your grandkids or your nieces and nephews, because
Yes.
I mean, I get tutorials all the time from them, because one day this is something that's simple, and I'm pretty hip to technology. I do a lot with it, but I couldn't figure out how to take a photograph of myself and put it in a Word document. And I spent about 2 hours. I was practically crying. And then I looked at my watch and I said, you know what? I bet Shannon's home from school. So I called up Shannon. Oh, actually, I didn't call her. I emailed her. I said, Shannon, could you help me with something? And she said, just send it to me. And 2 minutes later, she sent it back to me. And I was like, oh, my God. And so I was so excited. And I said, okay, you need to help me with some of these things. So I started taking, whenever I'm with her, she gives me a little lesson. And
Perfect.
But reach out and ask for help, I think, is the bottom thing. And don't ignore technology. And a great way to show, and we'll probably get into this a little bit about what employers are concerned about, is that you're not up to speed with technology. I mean, this is something that they really are worried about. And so there are ways that you can demonstrate that you are by adding those skills or certifications ahead of time, but also by having a LinkedIn profile. And you need your resume, and we may talk about that too, but if you show that you have a LinkedIn profile, that you are engaged in group discussions on LinkedIn, and that you participate this way, it goes a long way to showing that you're at ease with the technology, because they will Google you. They're going to look to see what your social media footprint is. So I encourage people, be on Twitter, follow industry thought leaders, learn about what your field is growing. You need to be engaged in part of whatever field it is you're moving towards.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, we're here now, so we might as well continue with that thing. And kudos to USF St. Pete for offering what you offer.
Yep.
With what a great, I didn't know that. Did you guys know that? Well, it's fabulous. Please summarize it again, Sue.
The Senior Archers Program is actually a statewide program for residents over the age of 60 who can take free college courses.
Over the age of 60, free college courses, statewide program. USF St. Pete is a part of that. So what a great resource.
I mean, it's brilliant. It's just lifelong learning is important, whether you're going to a new job or you're switching careers or what have you. But it keeps you mentally sharper, and you've got to be a part of it. And I think that's a wonderful resource.
You were talking about your friend who ran off and joined the circus and redeployed his military skills, or his leadership skills in that capacity. How does one do that? How do you look at your skill set and figure out how you can redeploy them in another area?
It's critical to do the self-evaluation for sure. But we also need to reach out and ask people around us, what am I good at? They'll often recognize things that you don't recognize about yourself, that you take for granted that you do well. And so I think it's critical to reach out to your network and say, what do you think, and knock around ideas about what it is that you are really skilled at. But it's pulling it all apart and thinking, often when people think about what they're going to as their Encore, it's something that they loved as a child. It's something that they really enjoy doing. A woman I met recently, she had a big career in the life insurance business. And when she retired, she knew that she wanted to keep working. And she was trying to figure out what it was that she wanted to do. When she was a kid, she loved to sew. And so she won sewing contests in Kansas and all sorts of things. I mean, it was her thing. But she had gotten so far away from that. But when Marilyn stepped away from her primary job, she talked to her financial planner. They tried to figure out what it is she might want to do and if she needed to work in retirement. And she did need to bring in a little income. She started a business making pillows out of old wedding dresses.
Wow.
And she started doing it for friends, and then she started an online shop where she does this. She sells to some retailers in her area in Kansas City. She also does T-shirts, and whatever. She does all kinds of different quilts and stuff. But what it was is she went back to her childhood. What is something I loved when I was a kid? Just like Don did with the circus. It was something he loved. Often you'll find clues. I call it like you have to be doing a little sleuthing about what it is, because it's not only your skills, it's what you really enjoy doing, because this is
The skills you can learn.
I think you can.
The skills
yeah.
you can learn. I hear what you're saying. So the skills you can learn, your natural ability, your passion around doing something can then come through those in a different way.
Because this is the time in your life to really do what matters to you. This is your opportunity. We are living this extra bonus chapter of our lives, and so get out there and make a difference. And when I talk to folks who have done these career shifts often, I'll ask them, what is it that made you decide to do this at this age, and and to start over in something new or what have you? And typically it's been a health crisis of some kind, whether it was something in their own life or they lost someone they loved early, and they realized, what is that all about? What is my legacy? Is this all there is? And it's usually a time in life when the kids have been launched. If you have that, the mortgage is paid off or you've downsized somewhat. This is your time to really think about what is it that you can do to make an impact on the world around us? I think we all have that inkling. So whether it's a for-profit job or a not-for-profit, it's having a mission that makes a difference. And it gets you up in the morning.
Do you know, I love that you just said that too. I had that conversation with my mother, who upon her decision to retire from a lifelong career of laboratory medicine, and she taught the medical students who would come in. She was trying to figure out what she could do, and she loved recording music from her computer. And I said, why don't you look at Apple, the computer store? And she said, oh, they'd never want me. I'm 68. There's no way they'd ever want me. And she went and she became one of the top sales reps in the Tampa Bay store.
I just love it.
Yeah, because people would come in, boomers would walk in,
Yep.
and instead of going to the teenager who would say, what kind of megabit hard drive, da-da-da-da-da, they'd say, come over to talk to Carol, and then she could speak to it, and she could train them, and she loved training.
And
She had
don't
a
you love
ball
Apple
doing
for
it.
welcoming older workers?
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that is a message that should resonate through employers across the line, because there is this connection with the older, with the aging population. We're out there, and we want to talk to somebody who speaks our language.
So is it to not be afraid of that learning some new skill set that you may need, but to really try to find the passion, the thing, the being?
So you do that soul searching. You sit there and what is that? And then what do I need to do? What skills do I need to add to get to that point? What might be important to do? And then it's that volunteer and moonlight piece. It's trying it out. And you know what? Nothing's forever. So this is a period in your life. It's not linear like what you did in your first chapter. This is about doing lots of different things. So I think of it as that patchwork quilt. You might do this for a while, and you might do that for a while. And there's no ideal starting point to do that. Just get started. And it will grow and it will become apparent. When I wrote my book, What's Next, I spent 3.5 years traveling around the country meeting people who made these really sweeping career changes, from, investment banking to opening an Italian restaurant, from botany professor to opening a chocolate shop, all kinds of different things. When I went back to update that book, and again, those people, it was so amazing. And I didn't want to do what they did necessarily, but I was so inspired, I wanted to be like them. But they had such confidence in their vision. And when I went back a few years later to update this for a paperback, which AARP endorsed, and it was wonderful, and I revisited these people and their stories, I found that about a third of them had moved on to do something different. They had either sold the little business they started, or they found, one woman went from California Highway Patrol. That was her. She had an amazing career in California.
She was a chip?
She was a chip.
Wow.
And she became a Nashville music agent. And, but she realized that wasn't enough for her. So she was always very fit. She became a senior fitness trainer. So now she does a couple of different things. And so we might weave together different things. So it's not all going to be, it's clear I'm going on this path. So you start off, this is a period of your life to really make it an adventure and sort of do that roadmap that you've designed, Devin, to go different directions.
What happens if you think that where you are now and where you want to be, you may not necessarily be able to afford to get there because that takes learning a lot and you still have to work? I mean, you talk about a fitness program. What are some essentials that you have to keep in mind to get from here to there?
I love my fitness program. I think everyone should adhere to this Carrie's fitness program. And the number one piece of this is you need to be financially fit. And that's where, I'm a big fan of people talking to financial advisors or whatever who can help you take a look at your whole picture and figure out, and often you can do this yourself to a certain degree, but you may need to ask an expert, a pro, to really look at the overview. But do a budget. Think about where can you trim back? Where can you cut around the edges? Can you move to a smaller home? And if you start early enough, as I say, it takes a good 3 to 5 years to really make a successful transition if you're going in a whole new direction. But, pay down those big credit card debts, because here's the thing. Debt is a dream killer. And it just sucks everything out of what you might want to do. It takes away the possibilities. It limits you. It makes you, when you're in control of your finances, you're nimble, that you have choice. It gives you choice, because you can go to work for an employer that maybe is not going to pay you the salary you made in your previous career. But you know what? It's okay, because you're financially secure in the sense that you don't need that certain target. You need income, but you don't need that certain target that you had before. Or if you're starting your own business, I meet so many people in the over 50 category who really do want to start their own business, because in fact, they're fed up with the job hunt. And they're like, okay, I'm just doing it on my own. But if you're going to start your own business, chances are you might not be able to pay yourself for a year or so. So while you're building and getting traction in your business, so you really need those savings. Number 2 is you need to be physically fit. And what I mean by that is, I don't mean you have to run a super fast mile or bench press or what have you. But when I speak to audiences over 50, I'll have, a lot of times women will come up to me and they'll say, should I get Botox or should I dye my hair? And I'm like, well, yeah, if that's going to make you feel good about yourself, by all means, don't do it the day before the interview. But what you really, really have to do is get physically fit. Because when you are physically fit, you bring this certain energy. You bring this vibrancy. That you have this can-do spirit that comes across. And they don't, someone who's interviewing you or whatever may not even recognize what it is. But it's this certain something that they say, hey, I want what she has, or I want what he has. Because, it really resonates, because you're out there. And it's just having this, so it's swimming. I walk my dog a couple miles a day. I mean, whatever it is you like to do, do it. Third piece, so you're financially fit, you're physically fit, and you're spiritually fit. And by spiritually fit, I don't mean woo-woo religion and all of that. I'm talking about, when we're at this stage and we're trying to figure out what it is we want to do, it's really stressful, and especially if you've been downsized from a job and you're in the job market and you're getting a lot of rejection, and your family, they want to be supportive, but oh my gosh, and you're getting depressed, and it's difficult. So if you can have some place that you can go to that centers you, whether it's meditation or yoga, whatever it might be that gives you a respite where you can go and sort of calm down, find your quiet space, and learn, and just chill a little. And then it gives you the strength to move back into the next pieces of making your plan.
Well, and I love that too, even if you're currently employed in your current job and there's something that's askew or amiss, to take that time to do that as well.
Yep.
I think that's wonderful. I was going to ask you about your reference to LinkedIn and revamping your resume, and how much of what you're just talking about with your physical ability or your physical agility or your mental agility, what do you put into your resume? How do you revamp it?
I think the most important thing to remember about resumes is most of us haven't done one in years. And frankly, if anyone asked me for my resume today, I'm like, just look at my LinkedIn profile, because it's just, that's where I have it all. But if you're doing a paper resume, which we have to do, that is part of it, keep it short. No more than 2 pages. Mm-hmm. And it's not your obituary. People don't need to know every job you've ever had, even though you think they were all terrific. You really need to focus on the jobs that matter to the employer you're talking to. And you need to tell a story. It has to be a narrative. In this position, it's not that this was my job title. It was that I brought in a job 2 months ahead of schedule. I raised revenues, by the work I did by 10% or 15%. Give some story as to what you brought to that job, because what employers want to know is what you can do for them today. Mm. They're not so interested. Yes, most of mine today, if you're being interviewed by somebody who's younger than you, they might not even know what half of the jobs were you had. So you simply, you need to show what is relevant today for what they're looking for. So, in the resume, just physically, it needs to be simple. It needs nothing fancy schmancy. It needs to be a plain typeface. And it's critical to go through those pieces. And You definitely don't need to put objectives and that sort of thing in that. They don't need to know. It's very clear. You want a summary of why you're fabulous, lots of action words and so forth. But the LinkedIn piece is huge because they want you to be able to show that. And if you have your LinkedIn, I love my LinkedIn profile because you can show all sorts of facets of your personality that you can't show on a paper resume. And you can have, if you have PowerPoint presentations you've done, or videos, or if you volunteer somewhere. A lot of, I'd say 90% of recruiters are looking on LinkedIn to find their jobs and find their employees and bring people into that. So it's a rich source of that, but also you can have with your LinkedIn profile, you can see a job you might be interested in, and you can find out who in your network works there. And that's a really important way to, because as we all know, employers, no matter what age you are, if you're looking for work, hiring hasn't changed that much. People hire people they know or people they know. So it's really all about your network. So anything you can do to dig into finding who you know where you're interested in working, whether it's a nonprofit or a for-profit, you've got to pick up that phone or send that, and reach out to them and get in the door that way.
How many of you are, just for fun, on LinkedIn?
Yay. Oh my God, I'm
Awesome.
speaking.
That's great.
That's what it's all about, because
Wow.
that just shows that you're engaged and you're, in your field. And also, it's a great way to learn about our fields. I mean, I know I love being involved in different chat groups and discussions and so forth and that. But I get work still from on Facebook, people that were friends of mine from high school or people I worked with 20 years ago are calling me and asking me to do work for them because they've seen me on Facebook. I'm like, what? So, I mean, you feel like you know each other.
It's changed the way that we communicate.
Yeah.
How many of you now are going to go back to your LinkedIn profile and see how you can enhance it?
But that's the fun is you can change it all the time, I love it. It's organic. You can constantly put in new things and take things out. And
I wanted to kind of switch into a gear because I was getting there when I asked you the resume question about the physical fitness and whatnot. And I know that this has been a worry from some of my friends who were approaching their Encore years and looking to get a job, and that is facing the potential of ageism or some kind of discrimination because of their age during an interview or even in employment. What's your advice around that?
well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, ageism is alive and well in the workplace. And whatever you're looking for, whether it's a part-time job or full-time job, it's out there. And the basic things, that are challenges that employers are concerned about are that, and we've talked about a little bit of this before, that you're not up for the job, that you don't have the stamina or the energy. They kind of see your expiration date. And so it's not, it's not that sort of, and the second piece is they worry that you aren't up to speed with technology, that you're not going to be comfortable with that technology. They worry that, and this is real, that you're too expensive and that they can't afford your salary and that you're going to want more, your salary expectations are out of line for what they want to pay, and they can get someone younger to do the job, or that your health benefits are going to be expensive. And they worry that you're not going to play nicely with the other kids. And by that I mean, that you're not going to work nicely with a younger boss, perhaps. So, it's a culture thing. Will you fit in? Often you won't get the job because it's nothing wrong with you. It's your credentials, but you just don't fit in. And that's harder to get at. But these are concerns that, in fact, they're not always wrong. There are, it's an individual by individual situation. I mean, some people do fall into some of those categories. Or they don't want to learn new things. They don't want new ways of doing things. But there are ways that we can fight back. But you must be aware of them. It's without question. I mean, people judge a book by its cover. And so when I tell you about being physically fit, I mean that. And whether it's you have to have the clothes or the specs or whatever it is to look current, it is important.
You talk about culture, and it makes me think again about a conversation that I had with Bevan on the show, and that was that here we have 70 million plus baby boomers who are in that, I know she doesn't like the word retirement, but I don't know what else to call it, age group.
This next chapter.
The next chapter. Thank you, Carrie. And then we have 70 million plus millennials who are coming in, and in between there are 30, 40 million Gen Xers, which is me, I guess. So we have to find a way in the workplace to work interculturally, whatever that looks like. And if that means being able to How do you do that then? How do you willingly adapt to learning new things in a different way?
You know, it really comes down to respect. You know, I do see a lot of older workers or experienced workers who are sort of condescending towards the younger workers. You know, they've always done it right, they know how to do it, and they cop an attitude. And they even do when they're interviewing with somebody who's younger than them. That's, you know, so it's an attitude. It comes down to attitude. You have to respect the younger person in the workplace as much as you want them to respect you. So it's a two-way street right there. And you need mentoring. And I think it's reverse mentoring in many sense. You reach out to them and say, hey, you know, I want some help learning about technology, or, you know, this new system we just put in. Ask them if they'll spend a little time sitting with you and working through it. And conversely, you mentor them back. There's a nice synergy there. If you can, and often employers will help set the stage for this, but often you have to be proactive and do it yourself. But I see huge opportunities for the two working together. And when I talk about entrepreneurship, which I think senior entrepreneurship, I get really excited about it because it's a great opportunity to sort of hang out your own shingle if you're hardwired for it. Not everyone is hardwired to do their own thing. But I have a chapter in one of my books, Great Jobs for Everyone 50 Plus, about jobs that ride the age wave. And a lot of these are jobs that are being created all the time, some we've never even heard of, for people in their 50s and 60s to cater to people in their 70s and 80s. And a lot of these are jobs that can be hanging out your own shingle kind of jobs. I mean, it's a patient advocate, or senior fitness trainer, like the woman I mentioned, or a senior massage therapist, or an aging in place specialist. And you know, there's certifications you can get to move into some of these fields, and you can team up with somebody else, whether it's the aging in place part. You don't have to be a contractor or an architect. You could be an interior designer. You could put together a little team of people to go in and do this. So I think there's all kinds of really neat ways. So when I get back to your question about the millennials, senior entrepreneurship, some of the best things I see out there are when you see a senior partnering with somebody who's younger. Somebody who's, maybe it's somebody in their own family in their 20s and 30s, but looking to find, they're having a hard time in the job market too. So, and although the job market has certainly improved, it really hasn't for the over 55 set and for the very young and the 20-somethings. It's a rough market out there still. So when you can team up together, you get the experience from the senior, and you definitely get the network, you might get the capital, and you get the enthusiasm and the tech skills of the younger worker. And my goodness, that you have created a business that can not only, you know, it's not this something for the next 5 years, it's something that could have traction for 20 years. And so you see these partnerships, and there's a couple that I hang out with them, and I'm like, yes, this is how it should work.
It's great when the two can have both of their strengths highlighted and reciprocated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too. And I love how excited she
I
gets
do.
with
It's
it.
just really fun.
Would you call entrepreneurship, I know you talk about both the Encore career and the second career. What's the difference between the two, and where does the entrepreneurship fall in?
Okay, so now, not everyone makes this sort of distinction that I do, but I think some of the folks in the room will. I see an Encore career, and maybe it's because I'm so passionate about this organization, Encore.org and so forth, but I see it really as making a second chapter of your life in doing work that has impact on the world. So in many ways, I see it as a segue into the nonprofit world. And so to me, that's what that word Encore means. It's shifting from a for-profit to a nonprofit job that has meaning in that respect. I see a second career as almost something that somebody in their 50s is doing, where they really are shifting to a whole new kind of work that may be nonprofit, but probably is more in the for-profit arena. So it's starting a business and doing that sort of thing, maybe or just plain shifting to doing something different. But it doesn't necessarily have to be in that social impact world. Does that make sense? And that's what I mean. Bevan, would you agree with me? That sort of.
I think different people have different perspectives of it.
Yeah. So it can be either way. But I like to think of Encore as, you know, it's a word that gets bandied about a lot, but I like to think of that as really your second act with meaning.
Talking about that, second act with meaning, we have a lot of nonprofits who have a lot of need.
Yes.
How does one go about looking at where they want to either volunteer or become a staff member?
Yeah, it's
That's a tough transition.
It's really difficult because there is a need. There's needs on both sides of the fence here, and I think The most important thing you can do if this is what you're, regardless if if you're in this age bracket and you're job seeking, you should just back away from the computer and get out of your head and into the world and volunteer no matter what. Because if you're volunteering, and it should be something a mission that you care about, that's important. But when you're out volunteering, first of all, if you have it fills in gaps in your resume. And I'm talking about skill-based volunteering, doing something that uses those skills that you've had. So you're using those and you're keeping your resume alive. You're networking. You're meeting people that you may hear of something else that you can do. And you may very well find a job right there at that nonprofit, or you may hear of something somewhere else. But it allows you to get in and see how it works. And an interesting example of that is a woman named Ann Nolan, she was downsized from her job, and she was in her late 50s, and she had no idea about what it is she was good at necessarily or what she wanted to do. And she's a fellow dog lover, so she would take long walks along the river in Providence, Rhode Island with her dog, trying to figure out what to do. She decided to volunteer at the local homeless shelter. And they realized with her skill set that she quickly was asked if she wanted to join the board, which she did. And, like a year later, no, maybe not even quite a year, she became the head of the organization.
Wow.
And the chief executive of it. And she said, Carrie, I know it's the name of the organization was Crossroads, Rhode Island. And she said, Carrie, I cry every day, but I cry for the right reasons, because she's making a difference. But it just came from a volunteer opportunity, and something percolated up. That doesn't always happen, but I think when you're out there in the world engaging, opportunities come to you and you learn. But a nonprofit resume is different too. I mean, you need to approach the nonprofit world. You have to really show how you can solve their problem today, and you have to understand that it moves at a different pace than in the corporate world did. You need to be willing to step back a little bit. Often one of the big problems people have with shifting into new fields, in nonprofit fields as they get older, is that it's really hard to be a beginner again. It's really hard to your ego to be a greenhorn and no one's coming to you for the answers. In fact, you need to go to somebody else for the answers. It can be a real,
your identity in a large part is tied to your job, your career.
So it really takes some effort to do some real soul searching on that.
You just said what I wrote down. I was taking notes because I wanted to ask her this next question, and she nailed it when you said, how can I make a difference? Yeah. That's what they're thinking, how can I make a difference? And there is something that you also talk about, multi-generational businesses and that legacy planning.
Yeah.
What does that look like? If somebody's really thinking about, I want my legacy to be around this issue or what, how, can you tie those together, entrepreneurship and legacy?
I think you clearly can. And again, I often say that nothing's forever, but if you're setting a course for yourself, that's something that really matters to you, and if you can do it working with, as we talked about, somebody who's younger, whatever, you can build something together that does have legs, that is going to move forward with what it is your vision is for it. And there are a lot of great examples, and I would encourage people to look at the website I mentioned, Encore.org, which we've all heard of here, but they have great stories of people who have done these sort of transitions to work with meaning. And they're inspiring, and it gives you ideas of how you might start down that path.
And if you are interested, and since you're in the Tampa Bay area, I want to put out this to the community, that we do have a nonprofit leadership center here, which has a lot of great classes for you.
Perfect.
On volunteerism and board development and a lot of opportunities.
Because if you're going to shift to the nonprofit, you often need to add some of those things that are really important to, is it, tech for the nonprofit, or is it fundraising, whatever it is, you probably do want to go back and take a class or two. A lot of the universities and what you just mentioned here, there's classes you can take that help you build those niches of what those jobs need, and so you can really market yourself to do that. If you were in marketing in your previous career and everyone needs people who can do fundraising and that sort of thing, or whatever it may be. But that's a great resource. I'm glad you brought that up.
Oh, wonderful. And so I want to, because I know we're getting into our hour when we're going to be networking and connecting and exploring those potential passions that you have. What are some final messages that you have for this group?
I think the most important thing is to believe in yourself. And it sounds really trite, but it's so true. You have to have this inner confidence that, in fact, you do have something to offer. We've lived these wonderful, decades of doing absolutely wonderful, interesting things. We're constantly learning. Know that you have something to contribute, and take the time. Don't do anything rash. You can really do a little at a time. It's just picking up the phone. I say do something, one thing every day to move the ball forward to where it is you want to go. And you will find more will be revealed. And you may start here and then you go here. There's not a straight path to what it is that's going to build out this rewarding chapter in your life, but it is going to be rewarding. And so I think those are the things that you need to take away with you. And a lot of us really do need to continue to earn some money sort of to stave off, whether it's a full career, second career or not, but to stave off dipping into those retirement plans. Maybe you can still contribute to retirement plans, push back taking Social Security so that you get that little 7% bump each year. These are important things. If you can build financial security by continuing to work longer, you're going to have a much more successful chapter. This chapter in your life is going to be much more productive and successful if you're not worrying about the money piece of it.
Amen. And Bevan, I'm going to ask you to come back up. And as I do, I will say, please help us give Carrie Hannon a round of applause. Thank you for this. Wonderful talking with you.
Good job.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Weren't they great? I mean, you just get excited, right? There's a lot. We can stay in the game. That's it. And it's just making the time to tune up the skills and tune up our attitude and make connections with people. So, Luann, you did a marvelous job
Thank you, Bevan.
in moderating. So let's thank Luann as well. And Carrie. All right. So now we're on to the next part of our program, and we have lots of exciting things that are happening. First of all, open your bag. Open your goodie bag. I bet you some of you have not even looked in your goodie bag, have you? In your goodie bag, thanks to Raymond James, our book sponsor, you have Carrie Hannon's book, which is fantastic. If you found out how quickly she wrote this book, you would really be even more impressed with that.
Don't spill the beans.
I'm not going to tell, but this book is just got chock full of great tips and resources for finding all kinds of different jobs and even starting entrepreneurship. So I want you to also pull out the famous roadmap. I know we've been talking about it on social media, so pull that out because this is us talking about what's going to happen next. So the first thing that's going to happen, what we will have, Carrie Hannon will be over in the book signing area from about 5:40 to about 6:20, because Carrie wants to get out and buzz around and see things herself, so we'll let her go free after a while. But she'll be book signing over there. The next thing is we have food, wonderful food, and a cash bar out in the entryway, and that will be there available to you from 5:30 to 7. So you get to choose if you want to jump right into having a drink while you're walking around, that's great, or you want to eat later on, or whatever is there. The sponsor tables are back here. They're eager to talk to you about ways that they can help support you as well. And then we have, this was kind of this idea that had been sitting in my head, is that oftentimes people say, what's the roadmap? How do I go about finding my second career or my Encore? And so when we think about it, it's really a highway. And it doesn't mean that you have to start at Discovery or start at Retool. Each of you come to this at a different place. Some of you know what your purpose is, but you're just not really sure what are the skills that I need to have to do it. For a lot of you, you have the skills, you've been out there looking for the job, but now you want to connect to what's there. So when you look at this roadmap and the visual piece that here, you know, the discovery piece is really important if you don't have an idea of where you want to go. So we have a whole section, if you haven't been back there yet, that's all about discovery. We have AARP and Encore Tampa Bay, but we have what I call the discovery corners. We have right management, we have We have Discovery Corner, where we have coaches and experts that are dedicated to helping you figure out what's next. So I challenge you, if you're in that I don't know what's there, go talk to them, because they've got some little cool activities, checklists, things to think about. Make that connection to what's there. We've also included in Discover Explore. We have Raymond James over there, because again, thinking about, if I'm going to go out and try something new, I have to first figure out, do I have enough money to do whatever it is? So that's Raymond James in that, and we have the 28-day gratitude workout also as a way of opening your mind to what could be next. In the retool section, we have the colleges and universities who are focusing on different things. We have Eckerd really looking at lifelong learning and their wonderful Aspect community. St. Pete, USF St. Pete is working on opening OLLI and the Senior Auditors Program. The St. Pete College has the Workforce Institute, Learn to Earn courses, really good. But we have Retool in the sense of, this is the future world of work. We have amazing people who are here to teach you some of the technology tools and different parts that are there. And Retool is about, what are the things I need to do to find the job. So we have Real Estate Lives and Tampa Bay Job Links who are dedicated to that. We have in the Connect section is connect to three things. You connect to nonprofits, and because we only have 10,000 nonprofits, we could not invite all 10,000 of them here today, because that would be giving me even more gray hairs than I already have. So what we've done is that we've really brought our umbrella organization, United Way, has, you know, hundreds of agencies, and so they have gotten prepared for helping you take that next step for how you can connect with that. We have RSVP here who have a ton of great new jobs. We have the Nonprofit Leadership Center here to talk about board member opportunities, jobs, and training. We have Social Venture Partners who's going to help you with not only using your talent and your money to invest in that, but we have Connect with Jobs. We have Manpower here who have jobs right here, right now. We have Walkabout Collaborative, and we have Career Source, and we have Patina Solutions. So these are all opportunities for earning income in a variety of different ways. Entrepreneurship, again, I would have loved to invited all our great entrepreneur resources, but they would have taken up the whole room. But we have the Greenhouse, we have My Startup Tampa Bay, which is a website that helps you know where to go. We have entrepreneur mentors, so we have mentor moments. If you're thinking about starting a business, go talk to them. They're going to help you, give you some resources and places to go with that. FranNet is here with starting your own franchise. So think about, you do not need to go to every booth that you don't want to, but think about where you are in this map, and that's where you want to go. You want to get in the game and learning technology tools, go to the Women's Learning Center. All of these are all just great resources and places to go. Their task is to talk to you, engage with you, and not just hand you a piece of paper. So get ready to have conversations with people. The next thing is that we've had Luann is going to be over in that corner. We want to capture from you. We want to hear from you in a 2 or 3 minute interview of what brought you here, what do you see as your next step, what's a takeaway that you have from this event. We're going to put all of this in a video, so you will be the star of the show.
In the hallway, Bevan, in the hallway.
In the hallway, out there.
That's great.
And what else am I missing? Oh, Mind Body Lab is here, increasing your blood circulation. It helps to prevent heart attacks, deal with pain, live longer, healthier lives. So there's lots of great fun things to do, and we hope that you enjoy visiting with each other and connecting with each other. And I just, one last thing, tomorrow morning in your emails, not that you haven't already had enough emails from me, but in your email you will be getting a survey and a message from me, and we would love to hear from you about what you liked and what you didn't like about this, so that we know what to do in the future. So again, I want you to be inspired. I want to take action, and I want you to have a good time and enjoy this. Would ask anyone who entered the SunTrust Bank drawing, okay, if you have put a card in for